Greetings and welcome to the Quest for Wisdom podcast, where we search for nuggets of wisdom from the lives of some truly amazing people. Today's guest is Carina Greweling, host of the Thrive podcast. Carina combines Ayurveda with Eastern psychology, spirituality, and habit evolution science. She's passionate about helping people find optimal health and fulfillment in their life, and specialises in helping women naturally heal hormonal, gut, sleep, weight, and fertility issues using Ayurveda and Chinese medicine. Today we speak about Ayurveda, astrology, ayahuasca, shamanism, childhood deconditioning, and much more. For more information about Carina and to find the Thrive podcast, check out the links in the description. Carina is a passionate and kind-hearted human who is filled with knowledge to share. I hope you enjoy our conversation as much as I did. Welcome, Carina Greweling to the 21st episode of the Quest for Wisdom podcast. How does that make you feel?
I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great, yeah, I'm really happy to have you here. Very excited to talk today about some astrology, some hormones, some Ayurveda, because you are an Ayurvedic health and hormone coach.
Exactly, yes. I'm passionate about a healthy lifestyle, and at one moment I specialized also in hormone health because this is what many people, especially women, face problems with.
Okay, so what is hormone health and why is it important?
So when we talk about hormones, like our hormone system, it influences everything, our behavior, how much energy we have. And when we think about women's health, it regulates our menstrual cycle, our fertility, our libido. So if our hormones are out of whack, we just don't feel so well in our everyday life. Because what I said, it's really the behavior, the feelings, the energy, the temperature, everything is influenced by it.
And how common is it to have hormonal imbalances?
I think it's very common, very, very common. It's also another perspective to look at things. So, for example, someone who suffers from digestive problems or from insomnia, you wouldn't think first about, okay, so let's check his hormones. But for example, our sleep and wake cycle is governed by two hormones. So it's melatonin and it's cortisol. Melatonin is a sleep-inducing hormone, so the hormone that is necessary that you fall asleep, you have a deep, restorative, rejuvenating sleep, and then cortisol in the morning rises, gives you the push to get out of bed, to have energy to start the day and to go through the day and get stuff done. So it's a different approach, I would also say, to look at things. And it's also something that becomes more and more popular, that we check our hormones and we try to understand many things from a hormonal perspective. And Ayurveda is a very old, ancient medicine system from India. And at one moment I started to explain things often from a Western medicine perspective, and also being able to mention some studies and some scientific research that has been done in this field, and then to explain it from an Ayurvedic point of view. So this is also for many people an access point that they feel more comfortable with, because many people they have problems to believe in alternative medicines. But then sometimes when I explain how these two systems complement each other and are not against each other, then people start, oh yeah, that's super interesting. And so the things that Ayurveda is teaching today, they're really confirmed by Western science, and that I find super exciting.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because it's very easy for us to be skeptical about Eastern medicines. But then you realize that they've been doing the same thing for 5,000 years. And really, we should be the ones listening to them, because they might not have the exact in-depth knowledge, on an atomic level that we have. But the concepts are all basically the same with just different names. And I remember in 2020, there was when I first got into astrology and also Ayurveda a little bit. And in 2020, I remember reading something that 2020 was the year when science and religion would start to meet. And the meeting of science and religion, to me, is very similar to the meeting of Western and Eastern medicine, because one is more like sort of faith-based and like intuitive, and the other one is more rigorous and structured and everything like that. So I started to become very excited, because when things can be proved in a way that's acceptable to us, it does open it up to everybody. And since then, I've seen a big rise in just, the word Ayurveda popping up, whereas the previous 25 years of my life or whatever it was then, never heard of it. And then since then, it's now everyone's talking about astrology, everyone's talking about Ayurveda. And I noticed it when I was in Brazil in 2019 that loads of people over there were into astrology, and hardly anyone I'd ever met in my whole life was into astrology. And then when I came back, then suddenly 2020, everyone's into astrology. And I felt like a bit stupid, because in 2019, I was like, oh yeah, astrology, that's like a load of shit and whatever. And then 2020, I kind of ate some humble pie and was like, maybe there is something to this. And I was basically just, swept away with it.
Mm. I mean, in Brazil, I have many Brazilian friends, and they're very open to astrology, spirituality. I would say much more than we are here. But I think Barcelona we have many large communities in these fields. I think it's a special city that we live in. However, in Brazil, it's very common. Oh, they have also many shamans and witches and many rituals. Like all my Brazilian friends, they talk very openly about it, and they already came across it while they were children. And I think sometimes also when we start opening up to something, then we also find it more and more, or we see it more in our life. So maybe that's also something that happened to you, no? Once you opened up to it, it kind of came across your way more often.
Yeah, like we were just speaking briefly before the podcast that when I started in like just investigating a little bit about astrology, at first I was totally open to it, but I didn't fully believe, I didn't fully disbelieve. Same as now, I'm just like, there's probably aspects that are true, aspects that are not. But what I found super interesting was the breakdown of personality. So, whether or not a Gemini is this type of personality and a Pisces is this one, those personalities exist and those type of people exist. And so it became really interesting to me just to see the different personalities and characteristics and how those all slotted together. And I started just change my whole perspective on us, on people. It started making me think of us more like Sims or video game characters, where we're all just these little characters, and we have certain levels of this personality, certain levels of this characteristic, certain skills in this area, certain deficiencies in that area, and we're just this big blend of things like that. And then I became obsessed with it for a while, and I was just kind of analyzing every person that I came across and every one of my friends and family, and going through their natal charts and everything like that, and just seeing what fitted and what didn't. Reading people's, just doing so much. And I just found it well interesting. I thought it was just really cool. And then the sort of the mythology behind it and the symbology of this, I just thought it was really cool. So how did you arrive at that point?
So I came across astrology, I think, when I was 16 or 17. And I found, for me, it was very helpful to understand myself better and also other people better. So I can very much relate to what you just said, that it helped you to see that we all have differences and different approaches to life. Yeah, for example, when you are a Pisces, you are very creative, more emotional, so more watery, like you have access maybe to your emotions much easier than maybe another person. Whereas another star sign might be more in the mind. But I think one very important thing that you mentioned was with a natal chart. So it's very important to check the whole natal chart. No, not just, okay, you're a Gemini, you're a Capricorn, you're an Aquarius. No, you really need to look at the birth chart of someone and to get a deeper understanding of the person. And so the first time when I came across it, it was really like I looked at my natal chart and I had someone who explained it to me. And what I found really breathtaking was that it already explained kind of how, like when we are born into this world and when we grow up in a family, I have 2 older brothers. I mean, we all grew up in the same family. We all perceived it differently, our family life. And astrology explains so well how I will perceive. And then I thought, okay, I mean, this was already kind of written in the stars before I turned 16 or 17. Yeah, so it was already all there, and also maybe the strength I have and the weaknesses I have. And then I really realized, yeah, it's we can use it as a tool to understand ourselves better and others better, and it makes us clear that we are all unique, that we also need to learn to look at perspectives from another person's view and to really dive deeper into their world. And yeah, so astrology, I find it very fascinating, but it was also sometimes that I thought, maybe it's just, not sure if that is really true. It's not proved, but I find it very interesting. But also we need to be careful when using it, not to put people in boxes, not to put ourselves in boxes, because I think we all have all qualities in ourselves. We can always develop them if they are maybe not, if they're not there, or if we would like to have more of something. But for a deeper understanding of ourselves and others, it can be super helpful.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And one thing that I found was that it is really interesting and really, just really cool to do your birth chart. So I'll just quickly explain a birth chart. You need your time of birth, your location of birth, and your date of birth. And your birth chart is basically the position of the stars when you're born at that specific moment, where they are in the sky in relation. And that gives you this whole big chart with where the planets and the stars are when you're born, and that then supposedly influences your personality. So unfortunately for that, you have to know the time you're born, which is a shame because a lot of people don't know the time they're born. Either their parents can't remember, or their parents might not be alive, so that is a shame. Luckily, my mum did know. But at the time when I was getting into astrology, I was pretty mentally unwell, and then I was kind of clutching on to daily and weekly and monthly horoscopes, and they were not doing any good because you're trying to predict the future, and that leads nowhere. That leads nowhere good. So I think that's the sort of darker side of astrology, that people get totally wrapped up in trying to predict how their day is going to go instead of just living their day and making the best of it. And I think that's also what a lot of people think astrology is. Just mainly women reading horoscopes in magazines. And it's like, there are lots of that does exist, that is true, but there is also the deeper understanding of it. And one thing that led me, when I started trying to think about astrology and I wanted to give it a go, I had to try and rationalize how it could be true. And one theory I came up with was that it's to do with light. So the amount of light that our parents are receiving at a certain time affects their hormones, and affects in particular things like melatonin, things which in turn affects things like serotonin, the amount of sleep you get, the amount of mood, it affects your mood, totally affects all your internal workings. So the amount of light that they're getting in a certain location at the time when their sperm and their egg are being produced then also affects them at the moment of conception. When they're actually having sex, they've both been receiving a certain amount of light, which will put their body in a certain state, which will make certain sperm more likely to reach the egg, which is already developed because of that amount of light. So that was kind of my theory, that there is, I think there will be a scientific way to at least narrow it down. And I'm also surprised that there's not more large-scale studies, because with like mass data, if you have people's date of birth, you can start to find trends in people's certain dates of birth. And maybe they do it, I don't know, maybe there are, but you could quite feasibly get millions of people in a study and study all aspects of them and try and find some sort of trends. I don't even know how useful that would be, but it would at least be interesting on the one hand. But yeah, it just got me, once I kind of thought that okay, maybe there is like a scientific reason for it, and maybe there are forces from the planets and everything's pulling us in a certain different way, and we're all just like a little spinning part of one bigger system, which is nature, that it all does kind of make sense, and we are ultimately made up of stardust anyway. So I was like, maybe everything is all linked. And it's definitely much more exciting to think that, I think. It's much more interesting. Whether or not it is true or it's not, it's like, it's cooler if it is. So I may as well live my life like it is. But you mentioned shamans as well in Brazil. Now, how familiar are you with shamanism?
I'm not very familiar. So I tried or took part in some workshops. I also had some sessions when I was younger with a shaman, but I wouldn't say that I know a lot about it.
Yeah, because you mentioned earlier that like there doesn't need to be a fight between Western and Eastern medicine, and it's sort of similar, I think, with shamanism, which I don't know what you'd call it. It's not really Eastern medicine; it's just alternative medicine. But I've just finished reading the book The Way of the Shaman by Robert Harmer, I think his name is, or Hana. He was basically this anthropologist in, I think, the 60s or 70s that went to Mexico and started studying shamans, and then ended up studying shamans all over the world and creating these shamanic centers. And he became basically the link between these shamanic cultures who've been around for thousands and thousands of years, who interestingly have very similar practices no matter where they are in the world, which means that there must be some sort of older knowledge that they've all tapped into. But he was saying even there, they don't reject Western medicine. They'll use it where they need to and where they have to. And if people are sick, they'll treat them. They'll tell them to go to a Western doctor, but then they treat the other part of it, which is the less, the spirit, basically. And there's some stuff which is, I think I'm a fairly open person, but like there's some stuff in it which is difficult to get your head around. But then as I made my way through the book, I'm like, it is true. Like, why would these people be doing it for thousands of years if it was no truth in it whatsoever? And it had, it just wouldn't work. Like if someone was going to shaman to be healed and 100 people went and 0 were healed, then people would stop going. So, and it's the same with astrology. Like virtually every culture ever has been into astrology, and they've all got relatively similar stories about it all over the world for thousands of years. Surely they're not all wrong. That's like the conclusion I came to, which is and it made me more open to it, I suppose. So tell me about your experiences with the shamans.
About my experience with a shaman. So when I went to a shaman, I was really working on healing something that like happened with my ancestors. So when I was already a small child, I sometimes could feel I brought things to this world that didn't belong to me, if that makes sense. And it was like there is something pushing me towards certain things that don't belong really to me. And I also asked my parents a lot about their past and about the past of my grandparents. And I could really see that there are some dynamics that were just transmitted from generation to generation, and that it was really necessary to do some ancestral healing here. And this was a reason why I then went to a shaman and started to work with her on that, to kind of break the pattern. To break the pattern for my own life. But it's also, when you do this, I have now a daughter. She's nearly 6 years old. It's also, I really didn't want to that she inherits certain things that went on for generations in my family history. And this is a reason why I went to see a shaman.
And do you think it was successful?
Do I think it was successful? When we work on these things, I think it's really, you remove layer after layer. So sometimes you see several healers or therapists, and this person might help you a little bit with this part, another person with this part. So for me, it's sometimes difficult to say if the breakthrough was happening with one person, or if it was kind of the accumulation of the help I got from different people. Yeah.
Okay, and what type of work were you doing with them?
What type of work was I doing with them? I have to go back there. Like I just in my mind, I have to go back there. It's not something that I so super clearly remember. So in her case, I was needing to tell her, I needed to tell her, I think, my belief systems around that and the experiences I had in my life. And then she was doing certain things with her fingers and with her eyes in front of my eyes. And it sounds, I think it sounds really, not sure how this sounds, but it's really something I can't explain in detail. No, but she used it, let's say, some techniques that were kind of changing the energies, were removing certain experiences, certain blueprints, that I brought with me. But I must say, shamanism is not something so far in my life that really got me. Like it didn't kind of lead to so massive breakthroughs for my life, I must say, that I went further in this direction. I didn't.
But it seems that if you at least, you must be quite an open person, if you at least tried shamanism and then Ayurveda and you're also into astrology, they're all alternative things. So what is it, do you think, that leads you to the alternative, let's call them therapies, as opposed to traditional ones?
Because when from an early age on, I had a lot of health problems, and I really didn't feel good in my body, and had really sometimes severe problems with my digestion, with my sleep, a lot of eczemas. And Western medicine just couldn't help me. They just couldn't help me. And I didn't see any improvements. And then when I was around 18, my mother, she sent me to a Chinese medicine practitioner. And then this practitioner was telling me what my physical problems have to do with my, with the feelings I also have, and also with the mental patterns. And then she gave me a book about Chinese medicine. It was an introduction into Chinese medicine. And then I started reading it. And it was also talking about nutrition and acupuncture points and physical exercise and essential oils and colors and all of that. And that there I had major improvements. And I'm very open to many, many things. I tried a lot of things in my life. That what convinces me is that what I can see, that it really brings results, but visible results. Now, because also many people who turn towards alternative medicine, sometimes when I talk to them and they have seen therapists for years, but they didn't have any improvements, I'm wondering why they are still doing it. Sometimes I wonder why, because you invest so much time, so much money. I mean, it's not paid by the insurance, so you also want to have results by it. And I'm working like this. I'm very open. I try it. I don't see any results. I don't focus on it anymore, and I just go into something else.
So when you were trying the Chinese medicine, what different, call them like therapies, or did you try? Like what were you doing exactly?
You mean now with Chinese medicine?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So she was basically working with everything. We have in China, like I also studied Chinese medicine. So she was working with tuina massage, which is the certain techniques that you use also with your hands to bring the to move certain stagnations, to change the energies, but also really to work on the posture, on getting toxins out of the body. So it's tuina massage. She worked with that. She also worked with Chinese herbals, so herbal medicine. Then she was not doing acupuncture. However, she put essential oils on acupuncture points, and she also used her fingers to, instead of needles, to work on certain acupuncture points.
Very nice. Yeah, I've done acupuncture a few times, and now my sister for Christmas got me a Shakti mat, which I don't know if you know that, but it's for people who don't know, it's basically like it's like a, what do you call it? Like a copy of a bed of nails. So it has all these, like, I think 2,000 tiny plastic spikes in it, and you lie on it. I lie on it for like 10 or 20 minutes before bed, and I love it. Like, because my sister knows I like weird stuff like that. And after about 10 minutes generally, I think it's endorphins, but you just start to feel relaxed. So even if I've had a really stressful day, or even if I've had like a little bit too much caffeine or something like that, I lie on that, and then I just start to get sleepy and tired. And I've been having really great sleep since I've had it. It's awesome. It's not nice, definitely not nice to do, and I'm only on there's 3 mats, and I'm only on the level 1, and I'm kind of more used to it now, but then I don't even want to think what level 3 is like, because it's not very nice.
So how can I imagine it? It's called Shakti mat, right?
It's called a Shakti mat. So it's like a soft mat underneath, like quite soft, maybe a little bit smaller than a yoga mat, and it covers basically it's basically the size of your back. Mm-hmm. And on it, it's got these maybe 100 plastic circles, and each of those plastic circles has got maybe like 10 or 20 little mini spikes sticking out of it. So it's just, it's made to replicate exactly what a bed of nails would be like. And it's supposed to be ethically made in India by women who are getting paid like a really decent amount, which is nice. But it feels like really good quality. And yeah, you just lie on it, and people do it every day. And I was reading reviews about it, and there were people saying that they lie on it and fall asleep. And at first I was lying on it and I was like, how the hell are people falling asleep on this? It's horrible. But then after a while, you do start to get relaxed. And I don't think I would ever fall asleep on it, but I usually lie there and I read for 10 minutes or 20 minutes on my back, and then I turn over, and I've had since using it, I've started to get some actual sleep the whole way through the night, which I've not really had since I was a child, repeatedly. So I'm loving that. So now I'm all for acupuncture. And I tried one of those, it's like a Shih Tzu or a Shiatsu massage or something, which sounds a little bit similar to the other one that you're mentioning. And that lady is a witch. She came over. She looked very witchy. But she said to my girlfriend straight away, she was like, "Are you a witch?" And Emma was like, "What?" But I think she is also a witch. Yeah, I just think all these things are so cool. They're because Western medicine, when you go to the doctor, it generally is just prescribe. Because they're trying, especially in England, because it's slightly different in other European countries where you have private healthcare. But in England, it's just they're trying to do the cheapest thing possible because it's public. And that's the problem. One of the problems with public healthcare is that they're just trying to get through you as quickly as possible. Whereas when you go to other people, like I went to like a homeopath and he did some acupuncture and a few other things, they try and look at the whole picture. And it's more of like a little program, you know, like you go for 5 or 10 sessions or whatever it is, and then they generally have a bit of knowledge about a few different things, so they can do some massaging, they can do some energy work, they can maybe advise on some nutrition and things, but it's that like personalized sort of homeopath view, which I just think it should be more popular. I don't understand why it's not more popular.
Because you don't earn so much money with it. That's it's one of the when the big difference between these two systems, Western medicine and alternative medicine, is in Western medicine it's evidence-based and it's symptom-oriented. We look at your symptoms and we wanna do something about it so that you get rid of the symptom. Whereas in alternative medicine, we look at the whole person. What kind of work do you do? Do you exercise every day? What do you eat? What are your family circumstances? Do you live alone? Do you live in a couple? Do you have kids? All of that gets taken into consideration. Also, the climate you are living in. It makes a huge difference if you live in England, where it's more cold and rainy and damp, or if you live in a city like Barcelona, where it can get extremely hot in the summer. So when we want to heal something, we need to look at it holistically. Because, you can have, let's say, you never have a headache and then one day you get a headache. Okay, you go to an acupuncture session and you just have an immediate relief and it's done. But especially as longer you have the symptoms, something led you there. Yeah, this can be your lifestyle. This can be traumas that you had in your past. So there needs to be some work done. And I always say to my clients, we can be just successful if you and I are doing the work together. So I will give my best. You need to try to give your best. If you are not willing to change something, you won't have long-lasting results. Because, for example, with Chinese medicine, herbal therapy is really good. Also in Ayurvedic medicine, we have herbal therapy. It's really, can be really successful. However, when the person doesn't change their lifestyle habits or has a look at their diet, or then they might have a success for a couple of weeks, maybe for a couple of months. But then maybe the same symptoms will come back once they stop the herbal medicine, because herbal medicine is there to be taken for a certain period of time, not something that you should depend on. Because you really want to apply the changes that are necessary, that you heal from the inside out, and that you are not relying on a therapist or on herbal medicine, or on acupuncture. No, that's I think is something very, very important. But these two systems are very different. We can use them together. Because, for example, I have a lot of women who suffer from thyroid issues. And then we can take a blood test at the beginning. And then we can look at TSH, T3, T4, if there are any antibodies. And then when they apply the necessary changes, when they take herbal medicine, then after 3 months we can take a look again if it goes in the right direction. Because we will see it in the blood result as well. And I think these two systems together, if we would make it work together and if we would work with doctors together, that would be really amazing.
Yeah, I know it's more so in America, but I know it's becoming more common for people to have blood work done. I don't know anyone personally that does that, but it should be more common. Get your blood test done and then figure out some sort of plan. Maybe you need a little herbal supplement for a while, and we're not that far away, I think, from where that would be much more accessible. You pay for a blood test and then you get the results you need, and then the information is already there telling you what's best for you. One step further, which I'm really excited about, is like the enzyme and microbiome treatments. So once they've mapped the whole microbiome and they understand that fully well, they'll be able to basically just make enzymes which can counteract the problems that are coming in your gut that then cause problems in the rest of your body. And I think that'll be really cool. That'll be a nice, like, nice sort of transition from into Western medicine that's less toxic for the body, because it should, in theory, if done well, should be perfectly tailored to your body. And I don't know how long it'll take to wrap that system, but I think it'll be really cool. But I also I underestimated the power of herbal supplements, because I used to live very unhealthily and take a lot of like alcohol, a lot of drugs and things like that. Then when I stopped that, I also went vegan, stopped having sugar, stopped having gluten, stopped having caffeine. So I was like totally pure for like 3 years, and then became so sensitive to everything that if I even had something that had a tiny bit of sugar in it, like a tiny bit, I'd have a headache straight away. If I had a tiny bit of gluten in it, my stomach would swell up, I'd feel unwell. And now I've basically made myself intolerant to gluten. Same with lactose. Like, I used to drink so much milk and I absolutely loved it. Now when I have it, my stomach swells, I feel unwell. And then it just made me realize then I haven't taken any medicine at all for maybe nearly 4 years, like any paracetamol, ibuprofen, anything like that. I've taken nothing. But now when I try things like ashwagandha or maca or something like that, I really notice the difference. And I notice the difference massively in the different things that I eat. And you realize, wait a minute, these things have an effect. You know, like if I have a banana at night, I'll become slightly sleepy. Or like maracuya, like a passion fruit, makes me sleepy. Whereas before, if you've got loads of other chemicals and things in your body, you can't notice any of those things. Or like, even I notice mint tea, because I try not to drink caffeine. I generally have it on the weekend now when I want to go and do some work in a cafe, but I don't generally have it during the week. But I have mint tea every day. And I even notice mint tea makes me stimulated. And I'm like, this is pretty cool, because then I can just actually rely on different herbs and things. And it just opened me up to the potential of all of these different things, because ultimately a lot of Western medicine comes from plants in the first place. It's just really, really pure forms of plant in a lot of cases. But if your body is clean and pure, you can reap the benefits of those plants in their natural form. So I'm excited for when that becomes more accessible. It's because it's accessible to buy these things, but it's not accessible to understand them. You know, like it takes a long time. I don't understand it. I just try stuff, you know, like I'll try anything and then I just see what works. But to actually understand it is really complicated. But it'd be nice to have more people studying those things, so then that they can teach everyone and say, like, to bring back more weight to it, you know?
No, I agree on what you said. And I mean, you said your zodiac sign is Pisces, so it's the most sensitive sign of the 12 signs we have. So yeah, you might feel it very very strongly if what effect something has on you. For other people, unfortunately, it's not like this. So I have my ascendant in Pisces, so I understand what you mean, no? And it would be amazing if it would be more accessible for everyone, because, for example, ashwagandha. Ashwagandha, I think most of the people know today about ashwagandha. Many people are taking it and they think, okay, it's good for sleeping, it's good for the nervous system. So what I can just invite everyone to do is, when you take something, just take a tiny little bit on your fingertip and then put it, like, just place it on your tongue. And then what for qualities does it have? So, for example, ashwagandha, the taste is more earthy, more heavy. And this heaviness is then, like, for people who have often sleeping disorders, they are more up in the mind. Often there's a lot of mental activity going on, and we need to kind of descend that mental activity towards the earth, that the energy can descend and that this person kind of can sleep, and that the nervous system the parasympathetic nervous system is activated. And ashwagandha, the qualities are heavy and earthy, so it will promote these qualities in your body. You said before with a banana. When you look at a banana, the consistency is very dense. And it's also when you give it to a child, like when they eat a banana, they are not immediately hungry anymore because it's also heavy, dense and heavy. And in your case, you might need now that heaviness in the evening so that you kind of can then fall asleep. So everything that we eat or that we take as herbals or that we drink, it has a certain energetic. And the energetic of your outer ecosystem becomes your inner ecosystem. So if we have never studied any plant medicine, but we want to know a little bit or understand better what the effect is on our body, then just take a tiny little bit into your mouth and also look at it. At each food that you put in your mouth, what's the quality of it?
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting point. I'm going to ask you in a second to explain to us, give us a quick masterclass on Ayurveda, but before that, I just want to mention what you said about the earth thing is very interesting because I'm Pitta Vata, which we'll explain in a minute what that is, very low in earth. So that's probably why I need the extra grounding at night. So that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, so now can you go on and explain to us a little masterclass on Ayurveda for the people who haven't heard of that?
Mm-hmm. So when we think about astrology and what you so much liked about it was that it provides you a system in order to understand yourself and others better. Ayurveda is doing the same. And so when we look at Ayurveda, we have 3 main constitution types. And these constitution types explain more in depth the body-mind relation that you have, the predominant ones. So we have 3 main constitution types, and these are Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So Vata is made from air and ether. So when we think about these 2 qualities, they're very light. So Vata types, Vata also rules the nervous system. So when you have predominant Vata, then you can suffer from things like that you wake up during the night, especially between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. in the morning, which is the Vata time of the day. And you can suffer more from problems that are related to an activated sympathetic nervous system. That might be anxiety, or that you worry too much, that you overthink. Like physically, what I already mentioned, insomnia, but it can also lead to problems like a sensitive digestive system. So what you also mentioned, that you react very strongly to, for example, gluten or to lactose. And the digestive type, for example, of a Vata person, they tend to be more constipated when they are imbalanced. No, because for every one of us, it's possible to have a good functioning digestion. But when it's imbalanced, they tend more to constipation and to food intolerances. So when we look at Pitta, for example, Pitta is made from the elements of fire and a bit of water. So these are more the people that are very passionate. They're very passionate. They can have so much passion that they seem to be aggressive to other people. And so when they do something in their life, they really need to be passionate about it. Otherwise, they don't feel the drive. Pitters get easily obsessed about things, and then they can become perfectionists. And they're often very goal-oriented people. So when a Pitta person when you have a Pitta imbalance, then you can have problems to fall asleep. So Vata sleep disturbances is more characterized by waking up during the night and then waking up and the mind is super active. Whereas Pitta persons, they still, oh my God, I need to get that done and this done. And they're still thinking about the project they are passionate about. And then they have a hard time falling asleep. What both types have in common is that they have too much energy concentrated in the upper part of the body, more in the head. And When we look at the digestive type, when you have a lot of fire in your constitution, you have more the tendency to be impatient. And the same we can see in the digestion. I mean, when we look at your digestive type, it tells us a lot about your personality as well, how you think and how you feel. And the digestion of an imbalanced Pitta person is that the digestion doesn't take enough time to digest the food that you eat. So you eat and bam, it's went through, you go already to the toilet. So these are the people that can go 3-4 times to the toilet or even more often. And they can easily feel hangry, I always say, between angry and hungry. So if they don't get the food when they are hungry, they get really impatient and you just need to give them something. And they digest too quickly. And this is also, we can see that in their lives, they don't take the time to digest the things, the experiences they have properly. Yeah, they are rushing through life. And for them also sometimes with sleep, it's just a little bit of waste. I want to get the stuff done, so I just sacrifice on sleep in order to reach my goals. We can see this a lot in Pitta. And what I also want to mention just shortly about Vata is we say in Ayurvedic medicine that 80% of the diseases we have on the planet today, they have their origin because in Ayurvedic medicine, we always want to look at the root cause, always, always, always to find it. That's super important. So we don't want to treat the symptoms, we want to treat the root cause. And we say 80% of diseases of the planet are due to a Vata imbalance because Vata rules the nervous system. When we look at our society, it really messes our nervous system up. It's like with all the social media, with too much information. It's also, we have more the tendency to do too much of everything. Too much food, too much information, too much on social media, overdoing, not resting enough. And this really brings the nervous system out of sync. And then it can, we say, push on Pitta and it can push on Kapha. So this brings me to Kapha. Kapha is the last constitution type we haven't discussed yet. And Kapha is made from the elements of earth and water. So when we have Kapha friends in our circle, these are more like they have more calm nature. People like to hang around with them. They can already relax just around of them because these are the people who really emanate so much serenity. Yeah? And they are often also, when we look at them, they are sometimes a bit more on the heavier side. Women who have a lot of Kapha, they have a lot of curves. Yeah, so when we look at a really female-looking body, we can think about Kapha. Yeah, you can maybe imagine Kate Winslet, from Titanic. She had a lot of curves. She was really very feminine. But this is more like this Kapha type person. And so they have a lot of these calm characteristics in their personality. The digestive system can get too slow. So they need, for example, to create more fire in their body. Because they're sometimes hard to get up from the sofa, they don't like to exercise so much, and the digestive system can become quite sluggish. So they eat something, they feel quickly full, and then it takes ages until the food has gone through the digestive tract. However, they have the biggest appetite and also the biggest tendency to emotionally eat or to overeat, to stuff themselves a bit. And they usually don't have problems with sleep. They have more often the problem that they sleep too much. And when they oversleep, or they are also, depending on your constitution type, you need a certain amount of sleep. So if you have predominant Vata, then you want to opt for 8 to 9 hours of sleep. A Pitta person is fine with 8 hours, and a Kapha person, when they get around 7 hours of sleep, it's enough for them. But I always say, if you are healthy. If you have a chronic disease, an autoimmune disease, you need, depending on the type, but you might need a little bit more sleep. Yeah, so we have these 3 main constitution types, and it's also like in astrology, you are not just one constitution type. Yeah, so you have parts of all the 3 constitution types in your body, in your mind. And However, you will have different, let's say, quantities of it. Yeah, you might be 60% more Vata and 30% of Pitta and 10% of Kapha. But you have all of them in you. And you can also develop, for example, in your case, when you said, maybe I need some more earth. So what can you do to develop more of these characteristics? Yeah. And so we can we have a predominant constitution type. But however, when we go through life, also the different phases of life, for example, as children, we are more in the Kapha phase of life. Then we go into adulthood and we want to, build something up in our lives. Then in our 30s, 40s, still in our early 50s, we are more in the Pitta phase. Yeah, we have this fire, we have this passion, we really want to create something. And then at the end of our life, when we have gained all the wisdom and we learned from all our mistakes, then we are in the Vata phase of our life.
Oh, I didn't know about that. So what, 30 to 40, 50, so like your middle ages is Pitta.
Yes, that's Pitta phase of life. And for women, like we can see it very clearly when we start menstruating, we enter into our Pitta phase of life. And then when we stop bleeding for a year, when we haven't had a bleeding for a year, then we enter menopause and we enter the Vata phase of our life.
Is that why anxiety increases then for like and worrying, like the typical grandmother who's always worrying about everything? Is that why?
I'm not sure. I'm not there yet.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe you have that to look forward to.
Not sure. Maybe.
It's one of those funny what do you call it? Just one of those funny things in life that I noticed when I was going through, because to find out they're called doshas, aren't they? The Pitta, Vata and Kapha. Find out your dosha, you can just fill in like an online questionnaire basically asking you all different questions about your personality and physicality basically. And then it comes up and it'll tell you the type of food which is good for you and the type of foods which you should avoid. And I couldn't help but noticing, and this seems to be the thing in life, the things you crave and want are the opposite of what you should be having, in my case anyway. And that seems to be like, the things that you want to do are not the things that you should be doing. It's the opposite of those things that you want to eat or the things you want to do.
So why do you think is that the case?
I think that probably because they invoke a reaction within your body, and that reaction is a feeling, so maybe for example, I used to be quite hooked on adrenaline, so doing stupid things to get some adrenaline or causing arguments or fights or whatever. And it's to feel a buzz. And I think it's the same with, like, for me, I always crave sweet things and sugar. And I know that's the worst thing for me, because since I stopped having sugar, I used to have brain fog all the time and jumbled thoughts and worse problems sleeping. As soon as I stopped sugar and gluten, that went away totally. And I don't get it at all. But it's like you still want to have the sugary stuff. Even though every time I have it, I get a bit of a headache, you still want it. And it's like, it's so stupid.
I mean, when you say that you are Vata Pitta?
Pitta Vata.
Pitta Vata type. No, usually we, just for our listeners, we name the one that is predominant first. And then...
Yes, I'm Pitta Vata.
Pitta Vata. So when we look at the 5 tastes that we have, so we have sweet, let's say if I get them together, sweet, sour, spicy, pungent, yeah. Then what else? Salty and astringent. So we have these 5 tastes that you also find in nutrition. So when you crave the sweet taste, that's amazing, because the sweet taste is the most heaviest one, and Pittas and Vatas, they need a lot of the sweet taste in their nutrition in order to have this heaviness that is much needed. So, of course, sugar, but what for other foods are sweet that you could eat, that have the sweet flavor, that you can eat that kind of promote that heaviness? So, for example, coconut, all kinds, like coconut milk, you can use it, for example, for cooking. It has a sweet flavor, it's heavy. Many grains have this sweet component. and are more of, more on the heavy side. For also when we look at fruits, now many fruits also, this is maybe why you respond so well to bananas, because they're heavy and they're sweet, and this is exactly what you need. So your body tells you exactly what you need in order to feel more balanced. You need more of the sweet flavor, but you don't need the artificial sugar. You don't need that one, because what you said, it leads to brain fog. Many people have brain fog today. Once they stop using artificial sugar or just refined sugar, like then they can really feel a huge difference, because it really activates the sympathetic nervous system. So, when you also know your dosha, the mix of the doshas you have, and then you can also see, okay, what kind of flavors do you need more of in your nutrition and what do you need less? And that can be very helpful, especially, for example, let's take you have problems to fall asleep. What can you eat in the evening that kind of descends the energy from your head down? And this can be, for example, the bitter taste. That can be the sweet taste. So this is how we work in Ayurveda. And so the doshas are really there to understand yourself better, whereas I must say an online test, it's a nice entry point, but it's just a test. And very often when we answer the questions, I can just think of, like you do 5 different tests on the internet and you might have different results.
Yeah.
But I think it is already a good point. But sometimes we are also not very objective. Like when we answer the questions, sometimes we have a perception of ourselves that is not the reality. So I think therapists or coaches are very helpful here, because they can really help you to, because they also look at your tongue, they feel your pulse, they ask you many questions, and then they can tell you a little bit more of about your kapha and your vata and your pitta and how much you have from each in your constitution. But it's also a discovery journey, and I think the person that can know it best is yourself. So when people take part in my programs, then of course, I help them and support them to see what is more vata, more pitta, and more kapha related. And this is normally we look first at the imbalances. But then you have what you just mentioned at the beginning, that at the time of conception, that your parents inherited a certain essence. So we have this essence in ourselves that we inherited from our parents. And this is also, let's say, our blueprint. Like the imbalances that you develop during life, they are kind of a little bit the layers you put on your real personality, whereas the essence is still there. So what's the essence? I always say, we say in Ayurveda, we have kind of the pure dosha, that you are made up from. And then you have kind of the ones that is determined by imbalances.
Yeah. So the thing, I started doing a like an Ayurveda course. I got like halfway through it, and then I think I just got distracted or something. But the thing again with it that I found was that it's complicated. So it started becoming very difficult to try and, I find feeding myself is the most complicated thing in my life, and the most stressful. And I was like, I wish I just had someone to just tell me, just eat that, don't eat that, do this. Because say if I'm a pitta vata or whatever, and then it's I understand at the time, I can't remember them very well now, but at the time I understood which foods related to pitta, which foods related to vata, which foods related to kapha. But then I was like, okay, so if I'm pitta vata, does that mean I need to eat pitta vata ones, or do I need to be eating imbalancing ones, or do I need to look out for when I'm feeling imbalanced and then eat the one that is related to that? So I suppose the easy one is if you are particularly anxious, eat something that is kapha. Is that the logic?
How can I?
Or something that's just not necessarily Kapha, but opposite of Vata.
So what you mentioned before was, why do we have this tendency to like things that are not good for us, no? I think it's in our nature because it's easy for us to do it. If you have the tendency to be too active, it will be very challenging for you to do nothing, to wind down, and just to do something that is deeply relaxing. So we say in Ayurveda, like increases like and opposites balance. But often the opposite is very, very hard for us to do. So when we look, for example, at what you just mentioned, that a Vata person feels very anxious, so does she need to eat Kapha foods? No. So we have the Vata foods, for example, they need then something that is a little bit more heavy. So all the root vegetables, grains, they need more of that. And they need also a good amount of high quality fats, because when we look at fats, they have a very calming effect on our nervous system, and they are very heavy and very dense. And very often, like when we look, for example, at ghee, they also have something of this sweet flavor. And so Vata needs a lot of regularity. And so they need to have set meal times at fixed days, at fixed, like they need to eat at fixed times per day. And they need to have a lot of regularity, which is not the nature of Vata, because it's so boring. Like they need to have constant changes, and things need to be different all the time. And because otherwise it gets boring, then they get distracted, then they start something new. But this is something that is healing for them. So I, for example, offer twice a year a detox where people learn a lot about food from an Ayurvedic perspective. And what you mentioned, yes, it is sometimes can be helpful that someone is guiding you through what would be the best foods for you to eat, how many times maybe per day, how long should be your fasting period, your feeding period, and all of that is very helpful. However, the biggest wisdom is found in yourself. So you need someone who guides you into nutrition that can so that you learn to understand what is good for you and what is not so good for you. And for example, if you have problems, or if it's challenging to have healthy meals every single day, to find the time for that, then there are also ways. Some people, they enjoy it to cook for hours. For other people, it's more like, okay, I want to eat healthily. However, it needs to be quick and efficient. Then you will pick different recipes than someone who enjoys being in the kitchen 2 hours per day.
Yeah, I think that's the difficult thing, is finding. I mean, like you say, some people love it, but for me, cooking is the biggest waste of time in existence. It drives me insane. So
what drives you insane?
Pardon?
What exactly drives you insane when it comes to cooking?
Everything. The whole thing drives me insane. It drives me insane. Number one, having to go buy the stuff, having to think about what you want to buy, having to buy the right things. I hate chopping vegetables with a passion. I don't like waiting for the food when it's cooking. I also want to make a really healthy meal, but that's just complicated and annoying. And I don't like having to do that every day. So there's so many more important things to me that I could be doing with my time.
So what do you think would change if you had everyday healthy meals on a regular basis? What would change?
My well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Not having to stress about what I'm going to eat. Like, for example, I recently bought these menu diet things, which are pre-prepared meals, and I bought like 6 weeks worth of those, and they come every 2 weeks. They're like frozen, and you heat them up, and they're quite a big variety, fairly healthy, and I enjoyed that, not having to think about anything. But now I think I might get a chef to come and cook me meals every Sunday and just cook me like 2 weeks worth of food. Because I actually think that will probably be an efficient use of money, because I probably don't have to pay that much, and it would actually save me so much time and so much money and effort. So I haven't actually cooked anything for probably 2 months, more, probably like 3 months now. I haven't cooked anything for, which I'm happy about. And I also have Huel, which is like the meal replacement shakes, which I absolutely love. I've tried all different types of diets. I tried loads of different stuff, and nothing makes me feel better than drinking Huel. So Huel, if you want to sponsor me, then I tell everyone about Huel, and I love it. And now they've even made Huel hot meals, which are amazing. But I want to come back to that point about doing things that are not good for you, and not doing things that are bad for you, and not doing things that you do want to do, and doing things that you don't want to do. Because I just think that that's the fight in life. You know, like for someone who loves going running, they probably don't need to be going running. Whereas someone who absolutely hates running, they're probably the top person who needs to go running. You know, some people love lifting weights, but they're probably naturally fairly strong. They probably don't particularly need to lift weights, but they actually maybe need to do a bit more running, and you know, all these opposites. And one of the things I realized about in myself was that I used to find relaxing incredibly stressful, and I hated sitting still, or I couldn't sit still. I couldn't do anything, or even just lying in bed. I absolutely hated lying in bed because I couldn't sleep. I had racing thoughts. It was just horrible. Then I practiced relaxing, and I realized that even just when I'm tired in the day, just 10 minutes of sitting there with my eyes closed, and I'll have way more energy for the rest of the day to be more productive. So it's like sacrificing a bit of that productivity just to relax for 5 or 10 minutes or whatever actually makes you more productive in the long run. And now I've practiced relaxing. I actually like it. I can sit and chill and relax for a bit.
And so why do you like it?
Why do I like it?
Because of the effect it has.
Yeah.
What benefits you experience.
Yeah.
So it's always, we need to get very clear about how do I want to feel in my body? How do I really want to feel? And what are the necessary changes I need to do? And so, for example, when you say, or when you said that we have this tendency not wanting to do certain things that would be good for us, and then just to do more of the things that are like kind of easy for us to do, but that are not kind of bringing in the right balance. No, this is also like overcoming resistance. No, so there might be also something why you have such a resistance to food preparation. Okay, so and how can we overcome that resistance? So everything, when you wake up, like from the moment you wake up in the morning to the moment you go to bed in the evening, you do one habit after the other. So we need to work on our daily habits. So if you want to create a new healthy habit or to change an existing one, we can work with a Kaizen approach. This is something that comes from Japan. So you choose or you do an action that is so small, that seems so insignificant, thank you so much, that it is doable. So let's say, for example, you would like, it would be good if you do sports 4 times a week for 30 minutes. And at the moment, you're not doing any sports. So how could you start? Yeah, you could start and first, you need to try different kinds of exercises, also to find something that you like, that makes you feel good. And we need to try. It's by trial and error. Or sometimes you just know what you like and what you don't like. But you want to start maybe with 1 minute per day. So let's say you would like to do yoga. Yeah, then you roll out your yoga mat in the evening. You put your clothes already on top of it. And in the morning when you wake up, you see your yoga mat. You get on, you change your clothes, and you do maybe 3 sun salutations so that you do 1 minute of workout. Yeah, or you just put on one nice song that you really like and then you stretch your body in all directions, something that feels good for you. That can be a start. And that also helps with time to break through the resistance that we all have. And I always say, as bigger the resistance, as bigger the benefit. This is something I experience a lot in my life. And what you said was relaxation. I remember when I started meditating, I set an alarm 1 minute. Horrible this minute. I hated it. Like to sit on my cushion, just to be still, not to be running around. It was so difficult for me. But why was it so difficult for me? Because I had to feel what was there, maybe to look at things that I didn't want to look at, because we like to distract ourselves and just to push the stuff away that is just not comfortable. So, but no, today you said yourself you love it. For me, it's the same. Every single morning I meditate. Has become a daily habit that I'm doing, and that is very beneficial for me. So when we want to change things, we need to become aware, like we need to be very clear about our why. Why are we doing this? What do we want to achieve? Maybe we want to also have an anchor statement. No, I want to feel light and energized, or I want to feel mentally clear and focused. And then to take a tiny little action, tiny little bit. So there are amazing, for example, books like The Compound Effect, Tiny Habits. Like these are books that from time to time, still today, I'm re-listening to these audiobooks, because it just makes us so aware that we can achieve so much in our lives when we start implementing new habits into our daily routine. And that when we talk about health, when it comes to health, it's not enough to take 1 or 2 weeks per year of holidays and then have massage treatments and to unplug and then to recharge. It's that good stuff that you repeatedly do on a daily basis. That makes a massive difference on how you feel in your body and also how you will age, and all the health problems that you might encounter later in your life or not.
Yeah. The power of habits is just amazing. And like what you said there about starting real small, I tried to make myself a habit, because I like to write, but I'm also lazy to write. I think that's kind of a problem with every writer, really. But before bed, I made myself this little goal where I was going to write something every day. And I did it for ages, and then I got out of the habit and haven't done it for ages, but I'm going to start again. But I would even write some days 1 word, open my book, write 1 word, close my book, go to bed. And but I'm still doing something. And those 1 words, you add up those 1 words over a month, is like the what you mentioned about compound interest. You don't realize, it's not easy to realize compound interest and the effect that has on things, because I write poetry, and if you write between 1 word and 1 line each day, after 1 month you've got a poem. After 12 months you've got 12 poems. And it's then when you look back at the year, you're like, oh my God, I wrote 12 poems last year. But that only comes from 1 word or one line, and that doesn't take much time. And it's those then just add onto each other, and everything you're doing is then just enhancing your skills, which are then enhancing everything else. So it is really compounding, and it's just something that that lack of understanding about compound interest put me off starting things in the first place, because you're like, oh, what's the point trying to learn this new skill? This is going to take ages to learn. I'm going to be shit when I start. And then you realize that everyone's shit. You're shit for a little bit, and then after a while you're not shit because you've just done a little bit each day. And there's a few, I try to add lots of different habits in my day, but I've stuck at it now I do the Wim Hof every morning, I do cold shower every morning, I do my acupuncture mat now, I've done that for 2 months, and I do yoga nidra every day before bed. And it's those 4 habits now, and I've never been so productive in my whole life. I've never been so calm. I've never been so just like, I don't know, just balanced. I feel balanced. And it's like those things, because they're like, Jordan Peterson, he says something which I really liked, where he says, you have order and chaos, that's like the yin and yang. And some people have a need for lots of chaos. I suppose more creative types have a need for more chaos. Some people like to stick to what they know. But so long as you keep one foot in order, and that, or one even, could be one toe in order, you can have the rest of your body out in chaos, searching for new stuff, new business, new ideas. And for me, I know that is what I need. I need to be out searching, and I need lots of chaos. But all I need to do in order to keep yourself balanced and calm is just have a tiny bit of order. And I feel like those things, they ground me and they anchor me. Because in the morning, I don't want to do my cold shower. I don't want to do my Wim Hof. It's like, Wim Hof is like borderline painful, so it's like, it's a difficult thing to do in the morning. But I know that that's happening every day, and I know they'll make me feel amazing, and that grounds me into kind of reality each day, and that helps fix my day. It's the same with exercise. Like, I know every day I'm going to be doing some sort of exercise, and that way I can stick, no matter where I go, no matter what I do, I know that each day I'll be doing some sort of exercise, and that's like my core grounding. But then I even realized I've always exercised, and then I kind of plateaued and didn't make any progress for ages. And then I realized that I needed to rest. And, you just think that the more you do, the better. Exercise twice a day or whatever, and you'll get bigger and stronger and faster. And I realized, no, now I actually take 1 or 2 rest days where I'll do maybe some stretching or some running or something easy. And I've noticed such an improvement in just resting, because before, resting would make me so anxious, I didn't want to do it. Whereas now I'm like, okay, resting is still doing something. It's still productive to rest. And then once I realize it's productive to do nothing, sometimes, then that's realize what I had to do. But then obviously you have some people who spend all their time resting, and those people are the ones that need to not be resting, because resting is not making them feel good because they're doing too much of it. They need to be doing something. And it's just all these funny little things of how we are. And just, life is just a battle. It's a battle of willpower and wit and energy, basically, just to try and make yourself do the things that you need to do to fulfill your mission in life, regardless of whether you want to do it or not. That's kind of the way I look at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and with the habits that you are now doing, and you see and feel the effects, and you see the benefit of it, because you are much more productive and efficient than, like you said, than you had been before. Once you see it, it keeps you going. But it's also, when you do repeatedly the good stuff, it becomes your nature. So even a person who says maybe today, I hate sports, I don't like doing sports, I don't want to get into that, they can get to the point that they say, I love sports, doing me so well. And it's always about this pulsation between yin and yang, between rest and activity. And I think in our society, like, yes, you are right, there are also many people who are just kind of in that rest, too much in that, like, not doing something, not moving something forward, and just staying where they are and not evolving further. So they need more dynamic, more fire. But it's really like always finding the right balance between the two. But I think why many of us don't like these times of rest is because it brings up all the unresolved stuff, because you can't distract yourself anymore.
Yeah.
And you look at what's there at that very moment, and that's sometimes not so nice to do.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I think that I spent a long time resolving most of that unresolved stuff. So now I think that's probably why I'm okay with doing some resting, because I'm not feeling horribly anxious or depressed or anything. So then it's actually okay. I can sit there and just comfortably be with myself. I do always prefer to be like doing something, but if I sit there reading or something, that's still to me resting. Because I think as well that I hope that reading doesn't die. You know, audiobooks are becoming more and more popular, and then there'll probably be some new technology that comes out where it's like some sort of immersive book or something like that, which will also be cool. But I think that, again, reading is like an old technology, let's say, but now it's more important than ever because everything is designed to be really quick and distract us so quickly. And reading is one of the few things that remains where you have to sit quietly and keep your focus on one thing, which might take you 10 hours, you know, and there's pretty much, there's online courses and different stuff which take longer than that, but it's one of it's one of the only things remaining that can keep our attention and keep our focus. Everything else is becoming shorter, quicker, more intense, more quickly switching between activities. And I'm trying to up my reading. I went through like a really big podcast and audiobook phase, and now I'm like trying to cut that back a bit because I was listening to like 4 hours of podcast a day, and that's too much.
It's also too much information.
Too much information. And I was noticeably much more tired because, like, I obviously don't have 4 hours per day to sit listening to podcasts, but I do them on double speed, so then that's only 2 hours. But it's still 4 hours of information.
Yeah, and you need to process that information.
Just to process that information. If you're doing that every day, then it piles up. And what I would notice then I'd do that for like 3 months, listen to hundreds of hours of podcasts or audiobooks or whatever. Then I'd go home or I'd go to Ireland to do some work or something, and my circumstances would change and my routine would change, so I would have less time for listening. And then I would notice myself just calm down, and that information starts to then process itself, because otherwise it's just like shoveling coal on a fire that's not burning, and all that information is just there, like piling up. And I was like, maybe that's not good, because reading, you can't sit, especially if it's non-fiction. Most people cannot sit and read for like 4 hours a non-fiction book every day.
Yeah, because, So when I was, I think, 28, I was overdoing it on all levels. And I couldn't read a book. When I grew up, I was sometimes, during the school holidays, I was sometimes reading one book per day because I loved reading so much. And then when I was in my 20s, I kind of lost it. And it was impossible for me to sit down and just to read because it was too slow. And my system was just used to do everything in a very rapid way. And I always wanted to, it had to be efficient. And reading didn't seem to be super efficient, But it slows you down. And I think also this was like humans have been reading for ages. And this is also something that is in our DNA. So when we go back to reading, it really like immediately slows us down. So when someone notices they can't sit or lie down and they can't read for 5 minutes, wow, your nervous system is just completely messed up.
Yeah, and the same thing happened to me. I read so much when I was a kid until smartphones came out. And then when smartphones came out, when I was like, I don't know, 13 or 14, and then I had like an Xbox and those type of things, and it became like online multiplayer games. Then I stopped reading, and I didn't read again until I was 25 maybe. So, and I think that is the biggest regret of my life so far, was stopping reading. So anyone younger, don't ever stop reading. Because I just think, like, imagine I lost like 12 years of reading. And at the time, audiobooks didn't really exist in the form they do now, so excessively. And I'm like, I probably would have read an extra 200 books if I hadn't stopped reading. I'd be so much smarter. And I was like, why did I do that? I'm so much smarter, and I would have been way calmer during that time, even just reading 10 pages before bed. Like, generally, that's all I do. I read. To be honest, I've had some good books recently, so I've been reading a bit more before bed. But like, 10 pages before bed of a fiction book, and then maybe 10 pages during the day of a non-fiction book. And that's all. And again, a lot of books are about 300 pages. So doing that, 10 pages of non-fiction and 10 pages of fiction each day, that's 2 books a month. And it's like then when you get to the end of the year and you realize all the different stuff that you've read, it's like, again, it's that little compound interest. Whereas before I would have thought, what's the point of reading 10 pages? That'll take me ages to get anywhere.
But this is how we think in today's world. This is how we function. We want to see quick results. And we don't want to take the time to get there. But what we don't realize is that these small actions, like 10 pages of reading per day, or 5 minutes of meditation every morning, is kind of you plant a seed. And this one can grow. And you don't know even where to, like, we just don't know. But yeah, this is really the importance now of continuing, that we continue doing the good stuff. And if it's just a tiny little bit, for me it's the same. Before I sleep, I read a book. So I have, it doesn't matter how long it takes me to read that book, but yeah, 1 book per month we can easily have 1 book per month easily by just spending 10 minutes, 15 minutes every evening or once per day on it. So, and this gives you also then what you said about the compound interest. Then you have stuff to talk about with other people, no? And it was I think in November, I took a coffee with a friend and we were talking about how we can manage not to get into that negative loop of thinking patterns. Now, sometimes, like it's also something with meditation, you can sometimes realize, okay, this started that negative downward loop, that we start thinking very negatively about something, and then certain emotions rise up, and then at one point we become the emotion, and then it's super difficult kind of to get out of it anymore. So what I then did in January, I started reading something inspirational in the morning and in the evening. So starting and ending my day with something positive. Yeah, so for example, I have 1 book at home. This is from the Dalai Lama. I don't remember which one, but he wrote a book, and it's about, it takes maybe a minute or 2 minutes to read it, but it's something that is really uplifting, something inspirational, and then you have a compound interest from that. So you think more positively, while you go through your day. And at the same time, you read something and it slowed you down. And this slowed down your nervous system. And when your nervous system is slowed down, your focus and your is much better. And you are much more efficient. And your anxiety will go down. So, we sometimes don't even know that when we start a new healthy habit, what the compound interest of it will be. We sometimes just don't know it.
Yeah, and I think that's the challenging thing, to do it and not focus on results, just do it. And then maybe 1 month or 2 months or 3 months later, you look back and you think, God, that's where I started and this is where I am now. Because I tend to be, I am a results and a goal-driven person. So it's like, you want to have a goal, but there is no goal with meditation. There is no goal with the Wim Hof or anything like that. It's like, you just have to do it and trust that your life will improve. But one of the good things is with, things like the Wim Hof method, that's been scientifically proven, and they found that by doing that, you can boost your dopamine. And, so our scientific words are put onto those practices. And the good thing about that is that you get basically a positive confirmation bias. So if you also read about the positive effect that's going to have on you, your positive effects will increase. And obviously, the more you trust it's going to do it, the more faith you have effectively, which is just faith in science, the more the positive effects will increase for you. And it's the same in reverse with negative. if you read all the negative effects of something, those negative effects will enhance. So like what you're doing there with the positive things in the morning is perfect because you're just reading like positive stuff like, oh, great, you're just enhancing all the positive things that can possibly happen, ignoring all the negative stuff, which obviously you know exists, but no need to pay any heed to it. But yeah, it's just very, very interesting.
Yeah, where you put your focus on, the energy goes to.
Where attention goes, energy flows.
Yeah, no, that's also.
I know you said that. So how would you recommend for people who are interested in Ayurveda, how do they start? What do they do?
How can they start? What can they do? Depending on if you like books or if you like podcasts or if you like YouTube, you could just start finding someone that resonates with you. Yeah, so an Ayurvedic coach, practitioner, or maybe also someone who shares their experience with Ayurveda. This can be sometimes be even more motivating. That also transfers some knowledge. Yeah, so because Ayurveda, normally you hook people quite quickly because they learn about themselves. And they find this, this is fascinating, or yes, I would like to go deeper into that. So it can be also that you just do an online test and then you start reading about Vata and Pitta and Kapha. Then you will realize, okay, I have them all. Like I have characteristics of all the three. However, yes, I see myself more in Vata or more in Pitta or in Kapha. To start like this. And then maybe you also have a health challenge, or you depend on medications. Maybe there is something that you would like to work on, or you suffer from insomnia or digestive problems. And then to do some more research about it, or to find a good book. As I like when I want to learn more about something, then I usually ask people who know a lot about it to recommend me, for example, some books or a podcast show or a teacher, a mentor. And then I just see if that person, when I read their book or when I listen to their show, if this is something that resonates with me or not, if I like the voice or not. This is also something important. And to start there. And then usually once we learn more about it, then it's also like things find their way. We meet people, we have conversations, we maybe come across an article, and this is how it starts.
Okay, and so which books or podcasts would you recommend?
Which books or podcasts? Wow, there are so many out there. So, and this depends really on what you are interested in. So, for example, for women that are interested in women's health, maybe in sexuality and tantra, they can, for example, look up the Shakti School with Katie Silcox, and she has a school, but she also has a podcast. But this is already like kind of, if you have no knowledge about Ayurveda or Tantra, then it might be a little bit difficult to access, might be. You have, for example, also my former coach, Kate Stillman in the US. So she has a podcast. It was always the Yoga Healer podcast. And then she chose the same name that I use for my podcast. So now it's a coincidence because she didn't know about it, that I had a podcast. So we have a podcast show that is called the Thrive Podcast. And she is talking a lot about Ayurveda, about health. So there people can find out a lot, especially in older podcast shows that she published. You can find, let's say, a lot of the basic knowledge of Ayurveda about the doshas and digestive types, and also the dharma that might be different for each constitution type.
Dharma?
So the dharma, like what you also mentioned before, why are you here on this earth? Like we all have a special mission.
What's your mission?
What's my mission is really to support women to find a healthier lifestyle, to trust their body again.
So you're a healer? Or a healer or a teacher?
I like to call myself like a coach because I don't want to tell people what to do and how to do it, but more kind of to guide them into their own body wisdom in order that they know what to do and how to do it.
So like a coach or a mentor?
Yeah, coach or mentor. I like more that. Yeah, because healer, some people when people call me a healer, I don't resonate with it because this means I heal the person and I don't, it sounds for me like this. I don't say it is like this. It sounds to me like this and I don't resonate with that because you are your biggest healer. You are your own healer. It's just sometimes we have lost the connection to ourselves and then you need a coach, a mentor who brings you, who guides you back into your own inner body wisdom.
Yeah. Okay, very good. And how can people find out more about, do you want to explain a little bit about what your course covers and how people can find it?
So at the moment, my business I have also the same aspect of my personality. I always need to, I develop something new, I discover something new. So there's always always some changes also in my business. But I have 2 online courses that I have already now for 4 years. One is a detox, so that I do twice per year with a change of season. So it's starting next week again. And it's called the Ayurveda Hormone Detox. And in this detox, it's not just about food, but a lot about food and about giving your body the possibility to release toxins. And not just on a physical level, but also on a mental and emotional level. And we do this through food, through yoga, meditations, and it's a deep dive into nutrition. Then I have another course that is a 20-week course, and that is for women, and it's about balancing the hormones naturally by adapting a healthy Ayurvedic lifestyle. So I guide them through 10 different habits that explain them the nature of their body and how to go through the day. And then they need to know a lot, and they need to first understand a lot about Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And yeah, it's really like a journey back to yourself. And when you start changing your daily lifestyle habits and your nutrition, so many other things will start to change. And it's also when you feed yourself in the best possible way, when you nourish yourself in the best possible way, you develop much more self-love and much more self-acceptance. And from there, you will also attract different people in your life. You will have different relationships once a relationship with yourself changes. And Ayurveda is very strong on that. Ayurveda is a system that really wants to help you to take proper care of yourself and to give you all the tools and techniques that are necessary for it.
Yeah, I just remembered that Ayurveda means science of life, which I thought was, because so far in this podcast, we've only scratched the surface of, nutrition, as you mentioned, is only one part of Ayurveda, but it really taps into the whole overarching science of life and wellness. Because if I remember correctly, yoga is part of Ayurveda.
We say it's a sister science of Ayurveda. Mm-hmm.
And then there's like yoga, meditation, Ayurveda, and then a few other things. They're all like part of the same, the Vedas, which are like the ancient scriptures of India, like 5,000 years ago, where they just wrote all the knowledge that they had about everything, and they all stuck it there nicely for us. And now we get access to it thanks to some nice people that have come over and shared that knowledge with us. So yeah, this has been really exciting. I'm looking forward to, hopefully you'd like to come back in the future, because there's lots more. I need to go away. There's a lot. This is all sort of like old information for me that was from years ago. So it's like now my brain's all whirring again. I've got loads of questions, but hopefully we can do a deeper dive next time. So where can people find your course?
So I have on my homepage, carinagreweling.com. I also have an Instagram, but I'm not a huge fan of Instagram. I usually get my clients from here. They either meet me personally somewhere at a networking event or a workshop. So I also have a newsletter. So each week you receive one newsletter. I also release one podcast episode per week. And it's talking about Ayurveda, hormone health. I had also like a habit coach on my show. So about many different things, but it's really with the aim that you gain some knowledge that helps you to understand yourself better.
Okay, amazing. And just before we wrap up, it is a tradition on the podcast where I ask all my guests for their words of wisdom. So what are your words of wisdom, Carina Greweling?
My words of wisdom. Believe in yourself. This is just what popped up in my head. Any belief in yourself. I think this was the thing I most struggled with in my own life, to believe in myself. I was often looking for external gratification and confirmation. And yeah, we all have gifts. Everyone has gifts. We all have weaknesses that I think is very important that we need to embrace, to start loving. And when we believe in ourselves, then sometimes people say, but how can you start believing in yourself? I mean, pick something that you like about yourself, a quality, and maybe do more of that. And often it's also when we help other people, that can be very helpful also to feel better about ourselves. Yeah. So, yeah, really to start believing in yourself. And if it's just a tiny little yourself that is doing that, this is how I started. But yeah, I think that's super important.
Simple but effective. Believe in yourself. There's got to be some good in there somewhere, everybody. Search for that good part. Believe in it. Grow it. You heard it here first. There's also another tradition that I give my guests a T-shirt, a Quest for Wisdom T-shirt like this, but black. However, because I'm flying to Ireland, I forgot to pack it. So I will give it to you when I next see you, or I'll post it to you. Because I also give everyone an invitation, like a physical invitation, and I didn't have your address. So if you give me your address, I'll post you the invitation and the T-shirt.
Okay, and I want to have the T-shirt in size large or extra large.
Okay.
Because I love sleeping in these T-shirts.
Oh, I can give you an extra large, yeah.
So I still have 2 T-shirts from my ex that I'm still sleeping in.
I'll get rid of those. You can wear the Quest for Wisdom T-shirt.
Yes, with pleasure.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's been amazing to have you. Hope to see you soon. Good luck with all your upcoming endeavors this year. And yeah, been lovely to have you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Farewell, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Quest for Wisdom podcast with your host, Connor Monaghan. If you enjoyed the episode and would like to support the show, then please like it, subscribe, and leave a review on whichever platform you are using. This small act is a massive help and is hugely appreciated. You can find more information about all of our guests on thequestforwisdom.com and follow us at The Quest for Wisdom on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for exciting updates. We also have a Patreon account for anyone who would like to contribute towards the running of the show. Finally, I would like to thank the Comedy Clubhouse in Barcelona for allowing us to record here and for their ongoing support. If you are ever in Barcelona, make sure to check it out for daily shows of comedy and performance art in English. Farewell for now.